This is ABC 7 News This Morning.
And coming up later, how to choose the perfect beer to go with your Labor Day barbecue. An expert joins us in the studio to talk about that next. Well, summer's last major holiday is around the corner, and if your plans include a barbecue, a lot of us are planning that, certainly a good bet that you're probably serving beer along with that barbecue. Well, in fact, after the 4th of July and Memorial Day, Labor Day is the third largest day of the year for beer sales. A lot of beer being sold. But choosing from among the hundreds of different craft beers available certainly can be somewhat daunting. If you do what I do, you just kind of look at the labels, what's fun out there. But there's a more expert way of doing all this. So to help us figure out all of this and find out how your Labor Day barbecue is going to go, what local beer you should have with it, or perhaps imported, we have expert Anthony Norkus. He's from the Louis Glunz Beer. That's a distributor based in Lincolnwood. So nice to have you with us once again. Glad you're back.
Thanks for having me back. Yeah, so like you said, Labor Day right around the corner. It could be one of the last times that, we all get together and fire up that barbecue grill.
I know. I don't want to think about the last time for the summer, but you're right.
You don't want to, but, unfortunately it's here. And, and another thing, so many choices out there. And it could be hard to find the right beer for the food that you're serving. So I'm here to talk about some guidelines that we use when doing beer and food pairings.
Okay.
They're referred to as the 3 C's. The first one is cut, where you choose a beer that cuts through the richness of the food or the heat from the spice. The second one is complement, where you serve a more complex beer with richer foods or a less radical beer with lighter foods to build similar flavor profile bridges between the two. And the last one is contrast, where you choose a beer that has opposite characteristics of the food or the ingredients that you're using.
Opposite.
Opposite,
okay,
yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. This is almost like wine tasting in some ways. I mean, it can be that complex.
It is. And as we go through some of these, I'll show you the difference and the similarities between those two. And I brought a few along as some of my favorites to try. So the first one is from Holland, Michigan, the New Holland Brewing Company. They're Full Circle Kolsch. Kolsch-style beer is originated in Cologne, Germany, and it's a golden straw in color, a good malt character, but with a crisp finish that cuts through stuff like spicy mustard or sauerkraut like we see on the brat here.
Right.
And we're in Chicago. There's probably going to be a couple brats on the grill next week,
Just a few.
Just a few.
Okay.
The next one is the Flying Dog Brewing Company that originated in Denver, Colorado, and this is their In-Heat wheat beer. This is another German-style beer known as Hefeweizen. It's a little cloudy in appearance with hints of banana and clove and a creamy texture that is a good contrast to lemon pepper chicken.
Really? Banana?
Banana.
That's totally different.
Yes, and this is actually one of my personal favorite recipes and pairings, so this might be seen on my grill next week.
You're a little biased on that one. That's good to go, no problem.
You got to bring some personal touch to it, right?
I like that.
The next one is from our neighbors in Indiana, the Barley Island Brewing Company. This is their Sheet Metal Blonde, which is a complex Belgian-style white ale brewed with orange peel, coriander, and chamomile spices, which are a good contrast to seafood kebabs like the ones we have here with the shrimp.
All right, perfect. Boy, they're really getting creative. Coriander and different spices like that.
Yes, and that's
really
one of the great things.
The limit, yes?
And speaking of wine and beer, that's the great thing about beer is that they're allowed to use these different spices, where wine is kind of limited to just using grapes. So there's a more variety and more complexity that can be built into a beer than wine. So
okay, what else do you have here on the last couple ones?
North Coast Brewing from Fort Bragg, California. This is an American-style pale ale with a nice sweet malt base that is a complement to teriyaki sauce, but it also has a mildly aggressive hop flavor that cuts through the richness of pork. So what we brought today is a teriyaki glazed pork chop.
Interesting. So it has a little bit of heat. The beer does?
Yes, has a little bit of heat, but a really well-balanced malt sweetness to it. So here we're building that complexity we were talking about,
okay, very interesting. How about this last one?
The last one, a little closer to home, Flossmoor Station Brewing Company from Flossmoor, Illinois. This is their Pullman Brown Ale. Now, this is a rich, dark, complex brown ale with a range of flavors from bitter to sweet.
Right.
And it's a great complement to stuff like barbecue sauce. There's some heat, there's some sweetness going in barbecue sauce. So what we did is brought along some barbecue ribs to show that the complexity and the similar flavor profile bridges that we're trying to build.
Right. So how is this like when you go talk to people who kind of are picking their beer, and it seems like such a random, for most of us, just kind of random, you know what I mean? Do you find us becoming more sophisticated about the beer world?
It definitely is becoming more sophisticated, but until you know this, because everybody does a brown ale, everybody does an IPA, everybody does a blonde ale, something like that. Every brewery can be different, so it's still kind of like haphazard by chance, like what you're going to get in that bottle. But as you learn more about the styles, you know something that you should be looking for.
Right.
And then there's all those variations that come into play, brewery to brewery.
Right, okay. Always interesting. Thank you so much,
Thank
Anthony.
you so much.
Appreciate it. Well, if you'd like to learn more, experts from Louis Glunz Beer will host a beer tasting event called Beer on the Lanes. Now, this is coming up on Wednesday, September 8th from 7 to 10 p.m. at 10 Pin Bowling Lounge, just up the street here.
Yep.
330 North State Street in Chicago. That's the address. The cost is $45. That includes beer sampling and bowling. You're going to be hanging out for this one?
Yes, I'll be there.
Folks can ask you all kinds of questions they have? Okay, that sounds very good. Well, for more information about making reservations for this event or to learn more about the beers that Anthony just showed us, all you have to do is go to our website. That is abc7chicago.com. Be sure to click on See It on TV. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Back after a short break, everyone.